My friends, oh, I told you I'm going to tell you the truth. And you may never bring me back again. That's all right. Somebody has to tell us. You see, my friends, God needs somebody that is going to give the trumpet a certain sound. Somebody that is going to sound an alarm, because listen to me. This whole issue in the great controversy is about worship. And do you know, my friends, that we cannot take the styles of the world and begin worshiping like that? We can't take the drums of this world. Listen to me. We cannot take the drum beats of this world. We cannot take the rhythm and blues of this world and mix it with the worship of God and think, no, don't say amen. Listen and say amen. Brothers and sisters, we cannot take Christ and the devil and think that we can have an amalgamation. If God is God, then serve him. You see, a long time ago, there was a man by the name of Elijah. And there were 450 prophets of Baal that said, God is this way. They would cut themselves. They would stomp and scream and shout for the worship of God. But God wasn't in it. They would make a noise so they could be heard, but God wasn't in it. And there was one man that was not afraid to tell the truth. He said, how long halt ye between two opinions? If God be God, serve him. But if Baal, then serve him. And let me tell you something. Do you wonder why we're losing young people to go to the clubs? You see, if we play clubs in the church, why can't they go to the clubs at night? You see, there must be a different atmosphere if we are going to bring people into the house of God. We have been told in a book called Second Selected Messages, over 100 years ago, just like Isaiah, that said that just before the close of probation, that every uncouth thing will enter into the church. There would be drums and singing and shouting, and the senses of rational beings would become so benumbed that they could not make right decisions. You know, brothers and sisters, we can play some music sometimes and we don't even know what's taking place. There used to be a song not long ago, years ago, that was called Everybody Plays the Fool Sometimes. And it says, when the music starts to play, your ability to reason is swept away. Do you know that in heaven, Satan knows all about music? He was able to sing the 4 parts of harmony. Do you know that we're told that when Satan spoke to Eve in the garden, it was with a musical voice? Right there, the apostle of the Jordan, Satan set up the music and the dancing to get God's people away from the truth. And do you know we're told that history is going to be repeated? You know that right now, our style of worship are going to determine whether we receive the seal of God or the mark of the beast. There are only 2 styles of worship, that of God and that of Satan. In heaven, there's not going to be 100 different styles. Everything, every nation and kindred and tongue and people are going to be in harmony with the same worship style. Now, I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to study the man by the name of Thomas Dorsey. What did I say? Go back and look him up. He is what is called the father of gospel music. And what he did, he took the rhythm and jazz and blues and combined it with the music of his day there in New Orleans. And do you know what the word jazz means? It comes from an African root word that means dinza. It means to ejaculate. And when this music is played, do you know that scientists have studied and found that certain rhythm of beats affects the mind and the body and the plants, and it either builds it up or breaks it down. And my friends, if you study it, you know that I have right here with me today scientific studies that have actually been done that show what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And we can't take what we want and make it acceptable. Do you know that? There was a man in the Bible named Cain. And he said, God must accept my worship. But did God accept it? Jesus said, a time is coming when they that worship me must worship me how? In spirit and in truth. Now, there are multitudes that don't know this. Our young people have never been taught this. It does not condemn our young people and us as a generation. We have never been taught the way that God says we're to worship him. But in these last days, while God does not condemn us, he says, my son and my daughter, won't you come and learn the way of heaven? And Seventh Adventists, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not a Seventh Adventist, you know God doesn't condemn you. You didn't understand this. But Seventh Adventists, you know there was a time when we never would have set foot in Brother Drummond to the church. And we will allow the devil to deceive us. But if those who are going to be ready for the coming of Jesus, those that are going to be ready for the crisis, are going to leave the world and its fashions and its customs, and they're going to come back to the words of Jesus. And whether the world goes one direction, there's going to be a voice that's different.